All right, in this video, we will look at the version 900 of Celayix, which actually brings a lot of pretty significant changes to the application and how it functions. So we'll take a look at what those are, and the purpose of this is to give you a little demonstration so that you can decide if this is something you may be interested in. Now, I want to start off at the top. You may watch this demo and you may be excited and like it. That's hopefully what your experience will be. However, it's not just a simple matter of saying, you know, I want this, enable it. There has to be some analysis done by Celayix support team to ensure that your database will move without any issues. So it may not just be a simple case of, you know, flipping a switch. So it's a case where you may have to ask them, hey, would I be a good candidate to move? Can I move? When can I move? And then they can schedule something with you and figure out when it makes the most sense and how long it may take. Okay, so let's take a look at version 900. So I'm inside Schedule Xpress right now. As you're probably familiar with, you can come in here and create shifts inside Schedule Xpress. All that functionality hasn't changed in this version. This is still the same. There's been no significant changes here to the scheduling tools that are available. This is still here. It has been redesigned a little bit. We now have schedule tools broken up into one menu and shift tools broken up into another. The difference is schedule tools is used to actually apply things to the schedule, whether that's an autofill, send messages about shifts, find a replacement, those types of things. And the shift tools, that's where you would add a shift, update a shift, delete a shift, those types of things. So that's the only real big change there, is these two things are broken up, but the other functionality is the same, okay? That's what you're used to. Where I want to direct your attention to is actually to the employees module, which is down here, manage employees. Let's go in there. And as you can see here, you can now manage your employees through this application, okay? So you no longer need to do this inside eTime. And in fact, in 900, you won't be able to update your employees inside eTime. You will have to do that through this module here. So in here, you can see the employees you have added, and you can select them, and you can update them, or you can invite them. So let's talk about what these two things do. So when you add an employee, let's look at the first step here. So if I wanted to add an employee, we have a couple of ways to do that. I can click Add Employee. And I need to fill in this form. Now, the important thing to remember here is general info. Let's create a new employee. Let's create Brian Test. We need to fill in their first and last name. Now, I've got the employee ID disabled here so that it's auto-generated. You may, in your industry, you may require putting in a specific employee ID, and that's fine too. We still support that. So that can be enabled and you can type the employee ID, but for my demo purposes, I'm turning it off. Okay, so I plug that in. I have a short name that gets activated, and that's it. And of course, I want to make this person active. Now, other than that, I don't have to fill all this other stuff in right now. I can fill in their contact information. I can fill in what security group they're a part of. I can get their account information for Team Express, etc. But I don't have to do that. I'm just going to click Save. It's as easy as that. I've created that employee, and I can now start scheduling that person. Let's find Brian Test. He's right here. Now, the nice thing about this is that you can actually invite someone to join Team Express once you add them. So as you're probably familiar, but previously you had to create the employee. Then if you wanted them to use Team Express, you would have had to go and create an account for them and give them their password. And it took a little bit longer than it probably should have, right? So now what you can do is you can select their name and you can click on Send New Invite. And what you can do is you can send them an invite via email or via SMS. Now, obviously, there's a couple things here. Please make sure the selected employees have a phone number or email on file. So I would have had to go in and make sure I put in, when I add in Brian's email or add in his cell phone number so I can invite him through email or through SMS, okay? So what happens is I'll send the invite, and then basically what I will get is I will get a invite email, and that invite will come through, and I'll be able to just accept it through my email. So I'll go ahead and invite. I've already sent an invite, so what I'll do is I'll show you what that looks like. So an email will come through that'll look like this. So what we'll do is we will share this and show you exactly what this looks like. So You get an email that looks something like this, you know, it'll have your company name here, you're invited to join Team Express, it'll give you your information, here's your client ID, here's your username, and once you accept this, it'll actually take you to a login page like this, and you'll be asked to generate and create your password, okay? So you'll have to, you know, put a password in here and then click create account. So the employees actually do this themselves now rather than previously where, you know, you would have to do it for them. So no longer the case, now you do it for them. They do it themselves. So next thing here, so that's the invite process, and it's usually very easy. You just basically select them and invite. And of course, if I wanted to invite multiple people, just select them and then you can invite all these employees, invite 4 employees. So you can invite people whenever you want. You can invite them right away, or you can wait and invite them later. That's totally your call. Okay, the other thing you can do in here is you have a quick add. So another thing that was a problem for people was when they hire a large group of people, maybe they hire like 10 new people, they would have to go one by one and create all these accounts. Well, now we have a quick add. You can actually put someone's name in here. So let's make a new one. Let's make right, add 1 employee. Add a 2nd employee. Add a 3rd employee. And I can keep adding here, right? I can add multiple people just with this quick add. Now, all we need is the name, first and last, and we need the email and the phone if you want to send them an invite, but you don't have to fill this in. But if you want to use these functions to invite them right away, then of course we need this, right? So it's your decision. You can either put an email in and then choose email, or you can just leave these blank and send the invites later. We don't really care. So these 3 employees, I'm going to click on add. That's all there is to it, and you've added these new people in here. So here's one of them right there. So it's very easy now to add employees, get them in the system, and if I want to, I can go and schedule these guys right now. I don't have to invite them. I don't have to, but and I can, you know, invite them later once I get their email and fill it in. So we hope that you find that easier to use as far as how to add an employee and update employees. Now the other thing is once you add an employee, so let's select this guy and let's go update. You can always come back in here and update their information. So we have these little menus across the top, looking for contact. If you want to see their qualifications down here, pay info, pay rates, these little tabs across the top just take you to this part of the form, and you can see this. So very similar to eTime, right? You can go through and fill in all this information you're used to seeing. You can add a pay rate if you want, right? You can add a qualification right at the bottom here. You can add you know, if they have a first aid or whatever qualification you have for your industry, you can plug it in. So all the same functionality that exists in eTime is for the most part here, and you can do all this through this. Okay, so no longer any need to go into eTime Express to do this. You can do it right through Schedule Xpress. So I'm just going to discard that. Go back. The other nice thing is you can actually do multiple employees at once too. Like let's say the first 3 employees here, let's say all 3 of these employees actually have a first aid qualification that I want to update them. I can go update. I can drop this down. If I type in QA, here we go, I can add a qualification and I can add first aid to all 3 of them at once. So no longer do I have to go through one by one and do it. I can do it in a mass group and do multiple people at once by adding a qualification to their account, okay? Now, what I also want to show you is that qualification can be displayed in this screen. So this grid has been designed to hopefully make your life easier when you're looking at an employee. So for example, like you may not care what their default customer default site is. We can actually remove those from the display, and we have a little more room here. Why don't we add qualifications? Okay, and now we can see, here we go. Here, these 3 employees actually have the first aid certificate qualification, so they are first aid. So you can add that, and of course, if you have multiple qualifications, then you may need a little more space, but you can scroll over and you can see what qualifications they have if they have multiple. So this screen may be useful for you to, you know, not only see the employee's name and maybe their phone number, but also, hey, what are they qualified at? A quick glance, you can see that right away. So we hopefully you find that interesting. The other thing you can do is up here at the top, if I wanted to type in the name Anna and search, it finds everyone with that name. If I type in Chris and click search, it finds anybody with a similar name. So that's a intelligent search that you can use to find somebody quickly. And then the other thing you can do is you can filter. So we still have active, inactive, and archived. I do want to touch on the archived feature here. So you can select someone, like let's select Franklin, right? And I can actually edit this employee. And if I want to archive them, all I have to do is click archive. And it's a one-step process. They're now archived, okay? And that's all there is to it. Previously, as if you're using the e-time, you're familiar with, oh, you had to go to, set them to archived and then go to edit and archive their record. It was a two-step process. We streamlined that. It's a one-step process now, so it's a lot easier to just archive someone. Now, what you'll see here is that archived employees no longer show up, right? But if you select your view up here, you got a status archive. Let's go to that and click apply. Here's all your archived employees right here. So archived employees, and then of course you have active. And we kept the inactive status because we did have some customers who use it. So if you have someone in an inactive status, they would appear in that list as well. So inactive means, not active, but also not archived. More so like a temporary status. Inactive, and they're either going to be made active again soon, or they're going to be archived soon, but they're kind of in that middle step, and you're not sure what to do with them. So you get that. Now we've also got filters, okay? So where it says show all employees, if you're looking for someone, if you want to show just certain employees, like maybe just these 4, no problem. You can filter and just show those 4 if you want to work something on their accounts, no problem. You can also search in here. So let's select all. That brings it back to all. The other thing you can do is you can say, hey, show me just the employees that, like, start with this. And so you can easily find somebody really quickly with these little filters and figure out, who you want to see. So if I take this filter off, it just brings everyone. The other thing is groups and departments. So if you've grouped people or into some sort of a group or department, you could filter on them as well. So you could, I don't have them set up that way in this case, but if you apply a department to a group of employees, then you can actually just find everybody in department 1 or department 2, and it'll filter on that. Same thing for groups. You can create groups as well. Same thing. In qualifications, like let's show me everybody who has first aid. This is a common question we got. Like, how can I see everybody who has X qualification? Well, now you can do that. So if I say show everyone with first aid, boom, I can see that I have 3 employees with that qualification very quickly. And that leads me to what I want to show you next, which is you can export this. So you can click on Export PDF right here. And so if you were wanting to run a report that said, show me everyone that has first aid, for example, just like this, PDF, I've now got that report. Okay, and you might say, well, I don't want to see this stuff, or where's the phone number, where's the email? Well, it's in there here, but if you didn't want to see this stuff, then my answer to that would be, well, just come over here and just change your view. Oh, you don't want to see the default service? Well, no problem, just get rid of it, right? And you can take it away, and you'll notice this screenshot that it generates, it's just basically taking a snapshot of what you're looking at. So you're telling it what information you think is important, and when you export to PDF, that's considered and converted to PDF. Okay, so that's what the employees module is all about, and that's what you have there. And the other main thing that we added was here, manage sites. So here's where we have customers and the customer site relationship. Now, I use the term customers and sites. Depending on the industry, those terms may change. These labels can be changed. It doesn't have to be customer site, but think of it as a hierarchy where you have a top level with different sub-levels below it. Most commonly, that's a customer and then different locations where someone's doing work, but again, that can be renamed or restructured depending on your industry. So then what we have here is we have the ability to edit, add, and delete. So let's go ahead and create a new site, okay? So I can call this Site 99. I'm going to make it active, and then I have to choose which customer it gets associated to. So I have 2 customers to choose from. I'm going to apply it to ABC here, and I'm going to click on Save, and I've added a new site. If I go back, when I look at my list, ABC Company now has site 99 and site 1. It has 2 different sites, okay? Now, I can also create a new customer as well using the wrench. So if I create the new customer, let's do that. New demo customer is what I'll call it. And I can fill in the phone, the email, the address if I want to, but I don't have to. Click create. Then you're going to say, oh, it doesn't show up on the list. And that's true. It doesn't show up here until you add a site. It's not actually useful until you add a site. So if I click on create site, and I'll call this new demo site, I will apply that to the new demo customer. All right. And there we go. I've now added that. And now, if I go back to my list, now I have a third customer down here called new demo customer, and it has one site called new demo site, but there's no address there. Okay. So this information over here is phone, email, address, city, state. Just like in the employees, you can customize what you want to see in here. Lots of options, okay? Now, a couple more things here. You can edit the customer name, no problem. And you can edit the site name or the site information, no problem as well. Okay? For example, in this site, I never added an address. So let's go ahead and add in a address, and let's set up some geofencing with that as well. So let's add in an address. So I'm going to do 595 House Street. I want that to be an address line 1. I'm going to put this in Vancouver, and I'm going to go with British Columbia, and I'm going to save that. Now, once I save that, okay, now what I can do is I can set up geofencing, okay? So I'm going to go back here to another site that I had set up previously. I'm going to look at this one here, site 1. I'm going to update this, right? So once you fill in the postal code, if you know what that is, and you fill that in, we have a Maps plugin, okay, which you can use to actually set your location for geofencing, okay? So previously this was one of the topics that was most confusing to people, was how to set up the geofencing, and so this is hopefully a lot easier for you guys to use. So if you put in the zip or the postal code and then click refresh, it will actually find on the map where that location is, and it'll set the GPS coordinates for that. That's important because that is actually going to be used to set up the center of your imaginary circle you can set up for geofencing. So if this was the work site where you wanted your employees to show up at, you set the middle of the circle, and then what we can do now is we can say GPS tracking, yes, and we can start to set up a circle. So 10 feet, little tiny circle, make that a little bit bigger here, 188 feet, 400 feet, and then we can zoom out and we can see. So we can set up a circle size based on the middle of the circle here. Now what I can do too is I can drag this around if I want. So if I didn't like this location, if I want it to be like over here instead, just click and drag and it updates the GPS coordinates here. So it's very easy to use as far as setting up the circle, both with the size and setting a location. So now what I can do is I can require, don't allow employees to perform clock actions outside the fence. So if they're not inside the circle, and I check this, they will not be allowed to check in unless they're inside the circle. Okay, so that's all there is to it. That's all you have to do, and then you save it, and now you've set up your fence. It's about 400 feet around this point, and they have to be inside this, or they will not be able to check in, and then you'll start getting alerts that they haven't checked in, right? This guarantees that the employee has to actually, of course, be at the site when they're working. Now, we did add the other two things for an IP address, a static IP address. So if there was a device that they use at the site, a computer, a laptop, a tablet, whatever, if you have the IP address of that device and you want them to use that specific device, like maybe it's in the lobby or something of the building, you can say yes, and you can give us the IP address for that, okay? That'll work. If you click this, it will grab your IP address, okay? And it'll fill it in. So you can actually use this to find if you're on the device itself, you don't know how to find the IP address, we try to make it easy. Just click this and it'll find it for you and apply it. Okay, and then of course, you know, there's other ways to look up your IP address, but not everyone knows how to do that. So that's why this button's here. It'll actually pull your IP address up for you. So I'll just turn this back off. And then the registered phone numbers, this is if you're using our Voice Express module. So if you don't use the Team Express app, but you actually use Voice Express, you can turn this on, and then you can have specific phone numbers. For example, common one is like the main lobby phone or the main phone at the site. If you want them to call from that number, you just plug it in here. So you go like 1-999. 888, whatever it is, and you can actually do this as well. So all the same functionality from the eTime Express program is here as far as enforcing clock-ins. It's just hopefully a lot easier for you guys to use as far as streamlining the features and stuff like that. Okay, so you could use that as well. Okay, and then we also have the max hours, so like the monthly, daily, and weekly maxes. So if you want to set up like this site, can only have, I don't know, 77 hours per month, you can plug that in, or weekly or daily, either one. And then if you exceed that max, you can get warned when you're scheduling. And down here, you can add bill rates. So if someone works at this site, maybe you bill $55 an hour for it. Do you bill overtime? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe it's $110 if you bill overtime, et cetera. And you can plug this in and save it. Okay, so you can manage the sites, just like you did before, you can manage the sites. Now the other button we have this clone button. So sometimes what will happen is you'll have a site that is similar in setup. Maybe there's even sites at the same address. You can actually use the clone. It'll clone that one with a copy, and you can change the name to, whatever the name should be, and then you can tweak it. Right, you could change the geo coordinates if you wanted to, change the address if you needed to, but it still belongs to the same customer, right? So it's a quick way to just take the site, copy it, get some of the stuff copied over, and then just make a modification and click clone, and it'll create a new site. And I'm going to discard those changes. Okay, so the other thing you can do is, what you can do is update multiple sites at once. So you can select multiple sites. Like let's select both of these. And I can change stuff like the contact phone, the address, the city, the state, the province, the max hours, the bill rate, all this kind of stuff I can change with a mass update. Just like I showed you in the employees module, you can do the same thing inside the sites. You can go through and tweak the phones or the address all at once rather than having to do them one by one like you had to do in eTime Express. Okay, and then also, of course, you can delete the site. Okay. Now the export to PDF is coming soon. It's not quite ready for this screen yet, but you will also be able to export this screen just like you could in the employees. Create a PDF of it and export it to PDF and have a little report of all your customers and all your sites. So you won't need to run the report from eTime anymore. You'll be able to do it right from here as well. Okay, not much else to talk about here. There is a different status thing here, so active or inactive for sites. So if you want to make a site inactive, just update it, change the status, save, and then you go back, and then if you change your filter, inactive, apply, it shows it up here, and you go back to active, and it shows the active ones. And you can also filter and find things based on your customers with this search here. So if you have a number of different customers, you can find, stuff for just these two if you wanted to, and exclude any other ones. And up here again, you have an intelligent keyword search, so you can just start typing in a name. Like if I type in the word new, it'll find the customer with the word new in it and show me just that customer. Okay, so those are the main two features that we've added in 900 is the employee module, the invite process, and then also managing of the sites and the easy geolocation services. So that hopefully is useful. Now the other thing that I want to mention is security groups. So I'm going to go to settings. And in here, under employee, we have this option now called security groups. Now this is actually quite an involved screen. There's a lot going on in here, right? But what this is this essentially takes all functionality related to an employee. So this would be your Team Express users, and it wraps it up into one screen where you can control who can do what, who can see what inside their app And you can make different groups. For example, you may have full-time employees and part-time employees, and the full-time employees may be able to submit time off right here, and the part-time employees can't. So in that case, what I could do is I could do like this, maybe my full-time, right? These are full-time employees. I could take this group and clone it and call this part-time. Have a second group, okay? And then I'll select that second group, part-time, and I'll turn off time off. So part-time employees can't ask for time off, but full-time employees can. And if I scroll over here to the right, I can see which members belong to which group. Currently, I just had the one group, so everyone went into that group by default. But if I have multiple groups like this, if I go back to the employees, I can actually just bring up everyone here. I can actually select an employee, and I can set down here in the settings which group they belong to. Are they full-time or part-time? I can put them in one group or the other. Of course, I could have 3 groups, I could have 30 groups, we don't care. But you can put them in a group, and then they'll inherit the security from that. Okay, so a lot of functions in here. Do you want them to be able to confirm shifts? Do you want them to add shift tasks? Do you want them to be able to add notes to their shifts? Do you want them to have to get signatures for their shifts? What fields do you want them to see? Do you want them to see the start time? Probably. Do you want them to see the site, the customer, the service type, the shift type, the note, all this stuff? You can just simply unchecking a button or checking a button. Just uncheck here and they go away. And then if you said, oh, wait, I wanted them to see reference 5, well, you can just simply re-add it. Very easy to just come in here and manually change what they see and what they don't see. Okay. The other things over here, then you got module visibility. So do they use self-scheduling, yes or no? Can they submit availability? Can they submit time off? Does their time off require approval? Timesheets, do they have access to timesheets, yes or no? I can turn that on or off. Time cards. Here's the clock in and out options. Can they check in and check out? Can they do unscheduled shifts? How early do I let them check in? How late do I let them check in? I think you can change this number, right? What happens when they do an early check-in? Do I record it at the scheduled time or the actual time or a rounded time? Do I round it to some value like the nearest 15 minutes? What happens when they come in late? Do I use the actual time? Do I use the scheduled time or do I do a rounded? I can do that. For checking out, same thing. Actual time, scheduled time, or rounded time. So all these features are available for the check-ins and checkouts. Safety checks. Do I want them to do safety checks? Yes or no? I can turn it on or off, and I can set the interval. Record breaks. Do I care about recording their breaks? Am I going to require they do that? Maybe I'm not. I can turn it off. Yes, I am. If I am going to do it, do I want to round those breaks? Do I want to use actual time down to the minute? All these decisions you can make and play with when you're setting up a group. And then over here, you can see the employees. Now, the one thing I want to mention is you can't actually modify the employees here as far as like taking them out of the group, okay? You have to do that inside the employee module. You can't, you can just see who's in what group, but you can't actually change it. So if I go part-time, there's no employees in this group yet, right? So if I back out of here, and if I go to, I'm actually on one of the employees here and I change it to part-time and I save it. There we go, success. And if I go back to where I was in the security groups, let's look at the part-time group. And Adams is now in that group. Okay, so that should be fairly straightforward. But now she will inherit all this security. So in her case, she won't have access to time off because I had that turned off, right? So that's one of the other things we've added inside here and can be used. And the other thing underneath the employee is the shift options. So this is where you can enable confirm shifts or drop shifts. So confirm shifts means they have to actually confirm it on the app, and this gives you the peace of mind that they actually went into the app and said, yes, I'm going to work the shift. And the drop shift means they can actually request to drop a shift that you assign to them. So there's different ways to use this. Some people use it where if an employee drops it, they just say, okay, if you drop it, then you're excused. You can drop it, no problem. But you have to set a deadline for that, right? What's the drop shift deadline? So there's a couple options with that. But they can drop a shift, and there's a video we have on the YouTube channel that talks about this more in detail, about how this works and what the options are. But these two settings are also in here for confirming and for dropping and how they work. So, okay. Yep, so that covers the employee security groups, and that's another big piece that we added for this. One more thing I just want to show you that's a sort of like a minor thing, but I think it may be useful, is you can actually, if you're adding a new shift, one thing you'll notice is, or one thing you can do now is, let's say you're adding a new shift from scratch, and let's make it an open shift, and let's say you just got a new client. But you're already in the schedule and you don't want to have to go over there and add the new client, right? And add the new customer. So you see how I start typing in the new client name and it says create new customer name? If I click on this, it will automatically create the new customer for me. I don't have to go in there and do it. You see it says it was added. Now for sites, I need to add a new site. So I'll call this AZ Site 1. Create new site. Site was added successfully, great. And then service. I have default service. Let's add service 1. Create new service. Right? I added a new service as well. And also, this also works for employee. So if I wanted to give this to Jason Johns, it didn't find it, so it says, do you want to create this? And I click create, and I can plug in his information, but I can click add, done. So right from the shift form itself, I actually created a new employee, a new customer, a new site, and a new service. All this stuff new, and all I have to do now is click on add and save. It's down here at the bottom. This is the shift. And just to prove, like, oh, that's that easy? Yeah. So if you go to employees, Jason Johns was the new employee I created, right? There he is. He's created. Go to sites. And let me take my filter off here. And remember, I created the AZ company and the AZ site. So it's actually created for me in there. So now, you'll notice we didn't actually fill in the address information and stuff like that back there. That wasn't the point. The point is to quickly let you create the shift. I could come back here later and update this and plug in the address and the geofencing and all the other settings if I want to. Okay, so I think that will covers it. So that shows you a lot of the main changes in 900. I will mention that the eTime Express program still exists in the current version of 900, but you know, a lot of the features that you may have gone into eTime and used in there, you won't have to use those anymore. You still have it for other things, but as far as managing employees, managing customers, managing sites, all of that now exists inside Schedule Express, and there's no need to go into eTime to manage that kind of stuff. All right. So hopefully that wraps it up. If you have any questions, you can email support@celayix.com, and I hope you found this useful.